Welcome back to your nerdy show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master, and today we're diving into one of the most expansive and heavily discussed theories surrounding Stranger Things Season 5. This is a theory that has grown far beyond simple speculation and has become a full analytical movement across fan communities. It revolves around the idea that Eddie Munson may not only return in the final season, but come back transformed into the show's version of Kas the Bloody Handed, the iconic vampire lieutenant who ultimately destroys Vecna in Dungeons & Dragons lore. To understand how this theory became the centerpiece of the Stranger Things endgame conversation, we need to examine how the series uses D&D mythology, why Eddie's death is structured in a very unconventional way, and how Season 5's setup has pointed increasingly toward a Cas-inspired arc.
Vecna's dead! Killed by Kas!
So it was thought, my friends.
Understanding who Kas is in D&D lore and why he matters to the story. Kas the Bloody Handed, also known as Kas the Destroyer, is a major figure in Dungeons & Dragons history. Before he became Vecna's downfall, he was Vecna's most trusted commander, a warrior gifted with a magical sword and shield forged by Vecna himself. These weapons amplified his power and bound him to Vecna's will. For ages, Kas served him loyally, but eventually their relationship fractured. The two engaged in a brutal confrontation that resulted in Kas severing Vecna's hand and eye, the exact attributes that appear in countless D&D campaigns. After that battle, Kas was transformed into a vampire lord and banished into an ash-filled plane that reflects many traits of the Upside Down. It is significant that the Duffer brothers intentionally referenced Kas during the very first Hellfire Club campaign of Season 4. Stranger Things has always used D&D characters not as Easter eggs, but as foreshadowing devices. Vecna was introduced through D&D before he appeared as Henry Creel. The Mind Flayer was named through D&D before it manifested as a swirling black entity. Kas being mentioned explicitly is too deliberate to ignore.
I didn't know what to do, so
Eddie Munson as Kas. Why this became the most popular theory. Eddie Munson's potential return as Kas has dominated fan speculation because his death is uniquely positioned for a resurrection arc. Eddie didn't die in the normal world, he died in the Upside Down. His body was never brought back to Hawkins. It was left in an environment filled with corrupted spores, hive mind particles, and energy that has repeatedly shown the ability to reanimate or transform living creatures. Eddie's death is also framed in a way that mirrors the structure of transformative deaths in fantasy and horror fiction, where characters die in one form only to return altered and connected to the antagonist. The theory suggests that Eddie could be revived not as himself, but as a twisted version shaped by Vecna's influence, similar to Kas's original purpose as Vecna's enforcer before he eventually turned against him. There is also the detail of the demo bats. Eddie was not simply attacked, he was bitten repeatedly in a feeding pattern reminiscent of vampiric behavior. The Duffers have mentioned before that these bats do not kill purely for consumption, meaning the bites themselves may have consequences beyond physical injury. When fans noticed that Eddie had a bat tattoo on his arm introduced long before Season 4, the symbolism deepened. A bad tattoo, followed by a death via bat attacks, followed by a death in the Upside Down, creates a layered visual pattern that aligns closely with vampiric transformation tropes. When fans realized Kas and D&D is literally a vampire, the parallels became difficult to ignore.
30 seconds!
Symbolic and musical foreshadowing that supports Eddie's transformation. Stranger Things relies heavily on visual and musical symbolism, and Eddie's most iconic moment is his performance of Master of Puppets on top of the trailer. This performance is often viewed more than a metal tribute. It mirrors Eddie's potential role in the endgame. The lyrics of the song revolve around control, manipulation, and the idea of being a puppet under someone else's domination. Vecna is the ultimate puppet master, manipulating minds, controlling the hive network, and using trauma to break victims. If Eddie were revived under Vecna's control, the song becomes prophetic rather than cinematic. Eddie also wields a shield and a substitute for a sword, his guitar. Kas is defined by his legendary sword and shield. The show visually gives Eddie both during the most significant moment of his life. These choices are intentional, especially when Stranger Things frequently uses props as symbolic anchors to D&D equivalents. The Season 5 premiere title, The Crawl, deepens this symbolism. The word crawl is directly connected to the lyrics of Master of Puppets. Fans immediately associated the title with the idea of Eddie crawling back from the Upside Down or returning as a thrall of Vecna. When the Duffers choose a title, they choose it carefully, and this particular title sparked immediate conversations about Eddie's return. Narrative payoff. Why Eddie's return strengthens the Season 5 storyline. A large part of the enthusiasm around the Kas theory comes from its emotional and narrative payoff. Eddie is one of the most beloved characters the show has ever introduced, and his death was intentionally tragic. Hawkins vilifies him as a murderer. His Uncle Wayne continues to believe in his innocence despite the town turning on him. Dustin grieves him deeply, and the Hellfire Club table returns in teasers as a reminder of the story left unresolved. If Eddie were to return, even in a corrupted form, the emotional reactions from the characters would be enormous. Dustin confronting a twisted version of Eddie would be devastating. Wayne seeing Eddie again, but not in the way he hoped, would be heartbreaking. And if Eddie regained control, even temporarily, to betray Vecna and save Hawkins, his redemption arc would be complete. Eddie would not just be remembered as the outsider who ran, he would be the warrior who helped end the greatest threat Hawkins has ever faced. The Kas betrayal is a narrative pattern that aligns perfectly with Stranger Things' structure. The show thrives on redemption arcs. Steve redeemed himself, Billy redeemed himself, Hopper redeemed his failures as a father, Nancy redeemed her guilt, and Max redeemed her trauma. Eddie returning as a corrupted but ultimately heroic figure fits the show's emotional DNA. 11 as Kas, a thematic but less literal interpretation. Some fans argue that 11 could be the true Kas figure. Her relationship with Henry Creel has echoes of Kas and Vecna. She learned from him. She was influenced by him as a child, and she eventually turned against him. A Kas-like betrayal could occur symbolically rather than literally, with 11 delivering the final blow in Season 5. This theory aligns with her central role in the story, as Stranger Things has always positioned 11 and Vecna as two sides of a single coin. However, this interpretation lacks the dramatic transformation element that defines Kas. 11 is already the hero of the story. She does not need to be resurrected or corrupted to fulfill her arc. While the thematic parallels are strong, the literal markers of the Kas legend, vampirism, revival, weapon symbolism, or loyalty-turned-betrayal do not align with 11's role.
Can you hear me?
Max Mayfield as Kas, a darker possibility. Max's storyline also places her in a unique position. Her mind is damaged, her body is broken, and Vecna still has a connection to her. Some fans believe that Vecna may attempt to use Max as a vessel or a puppet, leading her to become a corrupted warrior under his command. This would echo the idea of Kas being Vecna's enforcer. However, Max's narrative focus has always centered on personal trauma and emotional resilience rather than transformation into a warrior figure. Her possible involvement may be important, but she lacks the established symbolism that Eddie has accumulated. The wild card interpretations and why they are less convincing. Several alternative theories exist. Billy returning as a corrupted general, Vecna creating a false Kas to mislead the heroes, or the show dropping the Kas reference entirely in favor of a new narrative direction. These theories, while imaginative, do not carry the momentum or narrative logic of the Eddie theory. Billy's arc concluded definitively in Season 3. A false Kas would diminish the emotional impact of the D&D parallels the writers established. Completely abandoning Kas would make the Season 4 references feel disconnected.
I didn't run away this time, right?
Why Eddie as Kas remains the strongest theory. When considering all the evidence, visual symbolism, foreshadowing, emotional setup, narrative themes, and D&D parallels, Eddie Munson stands out overwhelmingly as the character most likely to embody a version of Kas the Bloody Handed in Stranger Things Season 5. His death location, the bat attacks, the tattoo, the guitar-ass sword imagery, the shield, the Season 5 episode title, and the emotional consequences of his return all combine into a theory that is both narratively rich and thematically aligned with the series. Stranger Things has always rewarded close attention to mythology and emotional storytelling. The Kas theory represents both in a way that feels natural rather than forced. If the Duffers choose to follow this path, Eddie's return would not just be a twist, it would be a culmination of everything his character represented.
Now
What the heck, I'll laugh anyway.